Some have long nodding leaves. These will turn a pink color as they age, and you can see in some places you can have a really thick stand of them. Sometimes it's just one plant isolation or two plants here and there. There are lots of different trilliums. I think there are 7 different species of trilliums that are found in Kentucky. Sessile trillium is this not very showy flower, but the leaves are really interesting. And it's quite common. There's a species that has a yellow flower that looks quite like this. It's called yellow trillium, which is here. And then this is nodding trillium. So quite a few trilliums that are really showy, really beautiful. You can get them, you can buy them and grow them, but they're not that hard to grow. They need some moisture. That's one of the things that trying to grow these wildflowers in your home garden. If you've got too many trees and the shade is too close to the trees, and your area doesn't get as much rain as the mountains where they're from, they may suffer from drought stress that in the native habitat, the soil is deeper and more organic matter from the leaf litter, so there's better water holding capacity and more frequent rains, and the trees aren't so close and these plants aren't so close to the trees. So I've tried to grow these in my garden shady area. It's a little bit too dry, so some years they struggle, but the sessile trillium, the one with the brown flowers, is doing quite well. Trillium is one of the species that bribes the ants with a fatty body called an eliasome that the ants will eat, and they take these seeds away and put them in a nest or cache them, and sort of like the way squirrels do with nuts. And some of them will germinate and grow, but the plants are total off with ants as dispersers to the point that they have a structure on the seed that gives the ants a reward or an incentive to take it and put it somewhere away from the parent plant, but it's not going to be too far away. So there's a particular name for that structure, the eliosomes. Trout lilies are also called fawn lilies or dog-tooth violet, which doesn't make any sense at all because this is one that is truly, it's still in the lily family. There's a white species, this is Erythronium albidum, and the leaves are speckled sort of like a trout or a baby deer. Those are 2 of the common names, trout lily or fawn lily. And the yellow species, yellow flowering species, Erythronium americanum, is more common, and whole hillsides can be covered in them. They flower pretty early. In Fayette County on Sunday, I went to a park near the research farm, near Spindletop. Indian Mound was recreated. Basically, the UK Recreation Department has this strip of land along the Elkhorn, and the bank, the north-facing bank of Elkhorn, has a lot of wildflowers, and the trout lilies have already about finished. There were just a few that still had color. A lot of them, the petals of, they were pretty 2 weeks ago, but they're finished by now. And in some years they would be finished by then, or blooming in late March. But this year was early April when they were peaking. One of my neighbors has a big patch of Virginia bluebells, Hortensia virginica, so this is well in the horticultural trade, and it's a straight species. Nobody's crossed it or made it prettier. They didn't have to. It's a spectacularly beautiful, easy to grow. And this is in the borage family, Raginaceae, like comfrey. And the little petals, the buds are a nice lavender pink when they're young, and then they get blue as they open, and the flowers stay pretty for several weeks. In mass, they really can make a great display. So the neighbor that has these under a weeping flowering cherry, and with the cherry tree and its light pink blooms are in full bloom, and underneath is a lot of these little bluebells. It really is a beautiful display for about 3 weeks. Something a little bit later flowering than the Virginia bluebells, but otherwise has a similar blue colored flower, is Polemonium reptans, Jacob's ladder. And the Polemonium family is the phlox family. So Jacob's ladder, I've seen a variegated form of this, where the leaves have yellow stripes. And I don't think it's as pretty as the straight species, but the variegated form is what was being sold at Home Depot last year. I'd rather have just this plain natural species. Wood phlox, Phlox variegata, is in the Polemoniaceae family as well, but and there are a couple other phlox species that are wildflowers in Kentucky, but most of them are later flowering in the summer. This is a beautiful color. It's a little bit taller growing than the creeping phlox that's not native that people have in their garden. That makes a mat and comes in a couple different colors, but this is slowly spreads and it makes seeds and colonize an area that is a very useful wildflower. And there's quite a bit of this at Raven Run in Fayette County, but it's pretty common all over eastern Kentucky. Early saxifrage. Normally, in sometime around Valentine's Day, early mid-February, this will be blooming at the Dina Park, the Indian Mound in Fayette County. It's in the saxifrage family, Saxifraga virginiensis, and it looks a little bit succulent or like a rock garden plant. There are a lot of close relatives of this that are alpine rock garden plants, like hen and chicks, sempervivum. It's close relative. This is really quite nice. The blooms will last for a month to 6 weeks, maybe a foot tall. Really a nice adaptable plant. Fun flower, Tiarella cordifolia. Cordifolia because the leaves are sort of heart-shaped. A little misty flower, maybe a foot to 18 inches tall. Again, it's in the saxifrage family. And one more in that family, there are coral bells and alum root, heuchera. There are others in that family. But this is bishop's cap, Vitella diphylla. Again, the diphylla because the 2 leaves below the flowering and this little spike of blooms that look almost like a furry lily of the valley. But it's a shade woodland species, bishop's cap. It's quite good looking. The mustard family, Brassicaceae, there are several cresses. There's one that mountain bitter cress, Cardamine rotundifolia. There are a lot of the spring, winter annual, or short. Some of them are winter annual weeds, but these are perennial. Most of them get 6 or 8 inches at the tallest. There are a few that are bigger, but this one is the round leaf. That's what the rotundifolia, Cardamine rotundifolia, mountain bittercress. Cut leaf toothwort, really quite big flower, big as a dime or a quarter, and nice cut leaf on this Dentaria lascendiata. So Dentaria is referencing the parts that look like a tooth, the signature, the use of plants. People used to think that if a plant had a shape of a human organ, then it must be good for treating that the disease of that organ. So this toothwort is a plant that could be used for treating toothaches. And probably some of those are not because there really is a compound in it that's effective. It's that someone thought that because there's something tooth-like about that plant, it was designed to be used for that purpose. Sometimes it worked out that there really was benefit, but a lot of times it's not. Unless you really believe there is, and then it's sort of this power of suggestion. Interia heterophylla is slender leaf toothwort. Again, there are about 6 or 8 different species of these cresses and toothworts that bloom in March and April. Some of the species don't like too dense of the shade, so then grow in more open area or at the edge of the woods. I almost always miss this flower. Had some friends from England come over the 3rd week in March, and went to Natural Bridge, and this was beginning to flower. Sharp lobe hepatica, and the genus hepatica because the leaves look like 3 lobes of a liver. And the Latin hepatica references the liver. It's beautiful. Maybe the flowers are the size of a quarter to a 50-cent piece, and it could be beautiful, like blue or pink or white. Some of them have wider petals, plant to plant. Some have skinnier petals. But it's almost always, in a normal year, it would be finished by the end of March. But this year's a little bit later. So sharp lobe, hepatica. The ranunculus family, the first one we have is Thalictrum thalictroides. They used to have a different Latin name. It's a windflower because the flowers flutter in the breeze. It's the lightest breeze. The flowers are quivering. So rue anemone or windflower. False rue anemone looks almost exactly like rue anemone. So it's got a different Latin name, Anemone bitornatum. And it's taller, and it has more than 1 leaf stacked up. So the stems can be 6 or 8 inches tall, but you've got several nodes of leaves, whereas the rue anemone, the leaves are all at the top, right below the flower, and then the stem to the ground. So these are shorter and not separate nodes of leaves, like the false rue anemone. And this was taken Sunday, so or was it Saturday? I guess it was Saturday. I went to Dina Park. And there were several patches, several square feet of this false rue anemone. A really nice clump. Looks, the foliage will look a little like fern after the flowers finish, but I scouted this. I take my grass class to this area on a field trip, and so I've been there for the last 3 weeks. And this is just beginning to, the flowers are beginning to get old on this, but it's been in bloom for at least 3 weeks, so you get almost a month of those. We probably will see in Rock's Forest the giant chickweed or star chickweed, Stellaria pubera. Flowers are 3 or 4 times larger than the common chickweed. The leaves are darker green, and it's a little bit fuzzy. And it's a nice Stellaria pubera star chickweed. It's not a weed. And it's got weed in its name. It's a wildflower in the carnation family. It's native. Common chickweed is a weed and doesn't grow in as much shade as the star chickweed or not chickweed. Our pea, probably we won't see that next week. It's a little bit later. It's another, I wanted another plant in the carnation family, so Silene virginica, maybe 6 to 8 inches. And this is one that's also entering horticultural trade, so people are beginning to grow this as an ornamental. And there are people who want to have their gardens be suitable to help with honeybees and butterflies, the native pollinators, so they want to use native plants. So there's some people who are into native plants because they like native plants, and there are other people who grow this just because it's a really beautiful plant and if it's easy to grow and it's available, they'll grow it. It's a fire pea. Wild ginger, the rhizome of this does smell like ginger. You have these brown flowers right at the ground level in the leaf litter. These actually are pollinated by beetles. They generate heat in the flowers, so the beetles go to the warmth and crawl around in the flower and affect the pollination. It's not that showy, but people like having it because it's wild ginger. It's, I don't know if you eat the rhizome, it's tasty or not, but it does smell nice. Close related species is little brown jugs. And it actually looks like, I have some cyclamen bulbs that the leaves look very similar to this. So this is Hexastylus aerifolia. So the aerifolia says that the leaves look like an arum. They're really nice heart shape, sort of a cyclamen shape. And the little brown jug flowers aren't the showiest wildflower, but if you like native plants and something that's in the wild ginger family. Showy orchid used to be showy orchis spectabilis. The common name really should just be, that D should be an S, orchis. But sometimes because it's an orchid, people just call it showy orchid. And the orchis spectabilis was reclassified as Galearis spectabilis. Nice pink and white flower. And there are several other plants that you might think are an orchid before they bloom. There's Clintonia that has the leaves similar to this. Wild leeks or ramps. They're not quite as wide as that. There's 3 or 4 species that you might think it's an orchid. And this is a little more common than the lady slipper orchids, but people really get excited about lady slippers orchid. And this is one of Tom Barnes' beautiful pictures of the pink lady slipper or moccasin flowers that were Pipiam Macaulay. People try to grow these, they dig them up, transplant them. They often don't survive because all the native orchids have mycorrhizae, a fungal association with the roots, and they don't transplant very well. But people still try, and are almost always disappointed because they're a little bit difficult. They're best enjoyed where they're growing. The pink lady slipper, yellow lady slipper, Cypripedium parviflorum. There's quite a bit of this in the gorge area. There's more pink lady slipper in eastern Kentucky counties, the farther east you go. Another orchid that I particularly love is called putty root, Aplectrum high molly, and the leaves are evergreen, and the flower isn't much to look at, but if you turn this leaf over, it's a beautiful purple color on the underside. And the fact that there's usually just 1 or 2 or a few leaves per plant right above the leaves, and it's quite common. So it's a native orchid. There's some other orchids that have, I can't believe I forgot, one of my favorite ones is rattlesnake plantain. You'll probably see that. You wouldn't know it's an orchid unless you look closely at the flowers, because the flowers are small and not showy like the lady slippers look. Goodyeara is the genus for rattlesnake plantain. I just wanted to show that not all orchids have beautiful flowers, but it's just not so showy. It's not so large. People think green isn't the color of the flower, but there are flowers that are green from the beginning, or light yellow or white that turn green with age. Wild leeks or ramps, people eat these. I've never had them. It's sort of an Appalachian mountain. There's a ramp festival somewhere. Does everybody know where the ramp festival is? West Virginia somewhere. So this Allium tricoccum, there's some pretty thick patches where it grows. Pretty strong, like garlic. Wild leeks or ramps is the Mayapple pretty common, and this is one where, I don't know if Native Americans use this, but modern medicine uses Mayapple pedophyllum peltatum. The peltatum, that means peltate, which means that, like an umbrella, the stem is in the center of the leaf. You can see these new leaves coming out in the spring. Opened up, so it's like an umbrella before it's open, and then they're open, and when the plants get mature enough, the leaf divides, and the divided leaf will have this flower, and then the fruit is where it gets the name Mayapple from. But when my father had lung cancer a few years ago, one of the possibilities of treatment, chemotherapy, was 3 different plant-derived compounds, one from the mayapple, dophyline, one from taxus, and one from vinca, periwinkle, the mating plant, Madagascar periwinkle. Catharanthus used to be vinca. So it was 3 different plant-derived anti-tumor compounds that it's more effective as treatment for breast cancer and the type of lung cancer he had, stage 4, this non-small cell. It was like less than 5% chance of extending his life a month, so he opted not to do that, but it was interesting to read. I knew those words, I knew where those compounds came from, so a very good anti-cancer drug comes from this plant. And 30 years ago, when I was a student at NC State, the cotton breeder was retiring and got a small grant to try to grow 5 acres of mayapple commercially on a large scale. And I don't know if it was Burroughs welcomed, the drug company in Research Triangle Park that funded it. So the problem was it couldn't grow in full sun. It had to have shade. And that made it more expensive because you have a shade structure and then the harvested and planted. But that was a project 30 years ago, because now I'm not sure if they still harvest it from that, or sometimes they can synthesize the same compound in the lab based on the original chemical that was extracted from the plant, the way they've done with aspirin. Shooting star, there's some other plants that are really showy. It's called, one of the common names is Pride of Ohio. So this is one that gets farther away from not just the Appalachians, but Dodecaphion, and there's other different species. But, and some of them, there's a pink form, just like we saw with spring beauties or the bloodroot, that some populations there would be variation, and some plants have pink. Shooting star. Wood poppy or celandine poppy, styloforum diphyllum, obviously in the poppy family. If you tear the leaf or the stem and look at the sap is a bright yellow, the same color as the flower. That's sort of a neat trick if you ever see wood poppy. It's quite a pretty showy, something very large petals. Sometimes the ones can be almost as big as your palm. And in mass, these nice understory, ground cover for early spring. And they might get 18 inches tall if it's a really fertile, moist area. I've always heard these Dutchman's breeches, but I didn't know what a Dutchman's breeches looked like. So here is a little Dutchman with his wooden shoes and his breeches. Do look like, these are upside down of those Dutchman's breeches. And you can see that they're closely related to bleeding hearts, Dicentra cucullaria. And there were quite a lot of these at Medina Park that I saw on Saturday, and took some pictures of them. But this is a really nice close-up of it. So Dutchman's Bridge is really beautiful. There you can see what the plant looks like and nice chain. Sometimes the branches of flowers will have 10 pairs of pants on the clothesline. And this is a picture I took on Saturday, even without flower. Some of the plants there are being starved for light, which is too bad. You can see that Dutchman's Bridges, these are beginning to fade. The leaves are sort of ferny, nice looking. Another close relative is Dicentra canadensis. And it really does look like a white bleeding heart, but it's called squirrel corn. Not because of the flowers, but because of the underground bulb that squirrels do eat. And they look like individual kernels of corn, I guess. We're giving it that common name, squirrel corn. There's some pink forms or pink species that are more like the ornamental bleeding heart that people grow. That is an introduced Asian species, but it's not invasive, the one that's the garden plant. And it gets a little bit larger than squirrel corn or Dutchman's Bridges, but bleeding heart is a nice garden plant, what it's native about. So here's squirrel corn. Jack in the pulpit, Aracema triphyllum. The triphyllum, you can see, it looks a little bit like another plant that has 3 leaflets that people don't want to touch, a little bit like poison ivy, but this isn't a vine, it's just a plant. And the flowers usually are sort of green, maybe yellow-green. Sometimes they can have a little bit of purple in them, but Jack in the pulpit, really quite showy. When you see them, really easy to grow, and they can have really nice fruit. Later in the summer and the fall, there's some relatives from Italy, Italian arum, that look more like a cobra. So there's some ornamental garden plants that are not native that people are growing in their garden, but the Jack in the pulpit and the native woods is really neat plant. One of the first times I went to Robinson Forest, on the way there, it might have been early May, there was a foot-tall plant at the edge of the woods blooming, and it just looked so pretty that I had to stop and look at it, and there was this thing called wood vetch, Vicia caroliniana. It's a native lagoon, early spring blooming, perennial, maybe a foot tall. You can have 4 or 5 clusters of these white, pea-like flowers. So that's a native. There haven't been very many legumes. So it's a family that does more later in the summer and more sun. The legume family is not normally found very often in the woods. Pretty soon, the stone crop or sedum, this is sedum tornatum. Stone crop because it can grow on rocks. It's in the Crasulaceae family, very drought adapted. Some of them can grow in the woods along with moss right on the rock. You think of moss growing where it's moist, but this is a very drought tolerant plant, stone crop. And there's some other species, there's some annual sedums, but sedum tornatum is the one that you find in the forest. Salmon seals, this is another species that's entered into horticultural commerce recently, and this it's much prettier than this picture. Usually these are white and larger, and maybe with a little bit of green in them, and they turn green as they get older. And people have transplanted some salmon seal, smooth salmon seal from certain places. There's a strain from Pennsylvania that gets almost 3 feet tall. So it's a large, very vigorous growing garden plant. So people grow it and it makes a clump. So it's a very easy perennial to have in their garden. And I know several people who have it. And they've never seen it. They've never gone on a hike in the forest to see it in the wild. and they don't believe you when I tell them that it's a native wildflower, but it is. Polygonatum biflorum, 2 flowers per leaf node, and flowers all along the stem underneath, so they're hanging down. Close relative, and with a new name, fall solid seal. It's also called wild lily of the valley, and that's Maianthemum racemosum. The leaves look almost exactly like solid seal, but the blooms are only at the end, and it's a raceme. That's where the name comes from. And this cluster of these frilly flowers, not the little bell-shaped flowers underneath, but they are closely related to each other. And there are a few in the Fumitory family. Corydallis flavula is yellow Corydallis, sometimes called scrambled eggs. Some of them are 6 inches, 8 inches tall, so sort of low growing. The leaves look like, I keep remembering, I kept thinking I should put columbine, wild columbine, Equilegia canadensis, that's another one. So if I get to get this talk again, I'll have to add rattlesnake plantain and wild columbine. But the leaves of this look a lot like the wild columbine. 2 other plants that look similar to Solomon seal, but not quite, are bellworts, bellflowers, uvularia, and this one is perfoliata. The stem comes up through the leaf, or the leaf is wrapped around the stem. So, peltatum is like an umbrella. Perfoliate is the leaf wraps around the stem. The stem looks like it comes up through the leaf. So that's the perfoliate. And at the end, it has this yellow, light yellow flower hanging down like a bell. But it never really opens up like a trillium. It's sort of shy and stays closed like this. So it's, and where this grows, it spreads by little rhizomes, and there can be a colony, a big patch of this. This is the small flowered bellwort, and large flowered bellwort, Uvularia grandiflora, is about twice as tall, so it'll be about 2 feet tall. And when it's coming up at first, it almost looks like asparagus spears, but then the leaves come out and it looks like it might be Solomon seal, but the leaves aren't as symmetrical, and the plant looks really, really succulent, brittle, and I don't know if it's a deer, not a deer, it could have been a deer, but probably a rabbit. Something had eaten the bellwort at Dina Park where I went Saturday looking for pictures. So some animals are eating the tops out of some of these wildflowers. This is another picture from Tom Barnes. The other common name of this, besides wood betony, is lousewort. So it must repel lice and be used to treat lice. Pedicularis canadensis. This is in the Strophylaceae family, the same family that snapdragons are in. And it has sort of a ferny, frilly leaf, or almost like a carrot leaf, but the plant will be a foot across. And then when it flowers, it has these clusters of nice yellow and brown whorls of flowers. So, lousewort, or wood betony. Wood sorrel, violet wood sorrel. There's several different oxalis species that grow in the woods, and this one I'm pretty sure we'll see next week. Nice light pink flower, but almost looks like a shamrock. Oxalis, it's not a clover. It's in a different family, but some people think it is a clover because of the leaves. I have a few personal favorite wildflowers and bluets, Quakerlades, Houstonia cerulea, really, really showy. Also Rubiaceae, the same family that Parker was in. The plants, the leaves will be about 2 inches tall, and then maybe the flowers will be 4 to 6 inches tall in a little patch. So it's a dainty plant. just so cheerful, so many flowers. A few other species of Houstonia, some with darker blue flowers, but it's always usually a light lavender, bluish with a yellow eye. Really, really pretty. The Quaker ladies are bluets. Dwarf larkspurs are about finished blooming, and these grow closer, lower on the slopes, closer to the streams, where it's more moisture. Delphinium tricorni is the dwarf larkspur. There's another plant that has a leaf that looks almost exactly like that, the wild geranium, but it has like pink flowers and grows more as a rosette, and this has this big stalk. At Raven Run, there's lots of this in the spring, and in an area the size of this room, 80% of the plants would be this color, 5% would be white, and then the rest, 15% or so, is a light lavender blue. So there's mixed colors.